Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this week we are going to focus on learning JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language that we can use in conjunction with HTML and CSS to create some programming functions on a website. Let's say we want a website that has buttons that when you click them, things happen, text gets bigger, background color changes, all that kind of stuff. That is essentially what we're going to be learning. Now, if we were to go into W3 Schools and go to the JavaScript, the Learn JavaScript tutorial, there's a ton here, and we are not going to get into all of this stuff. And as a matter of fact, if you wanted, I could probably teach a full year class just focused on JavaScript alone and not be able to cover everything. It's a huge subject. Do not feel like we're going to cover everything you need to know. What I do want you to know, though, is W3 Schools has the examples like I've shown you before. And in the way I learn way better when I have examples on hand that I can play with and see actually what they do. So, for example, here we have an example of just a very simple JavaScript program. It says click me to display date and time. So we click, and then it shows the date and time, right? This is the code that's used to make that happen. Now notice it looks like HTML code. And with some very simple JavaScript, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating JavaScript that actually uses what looks like HTML code to do some programming stuff. The actual JavaScript part of it is this right here. This is the JavaScript part. So what this says is it says on click, meaning whenever we click the button that this is associated with, we are going to search the document that this is on, which is the web page. We're going to get an element by its ID. And notice that we have this paragraph element down here. We've assigned it the ID of demo. So we're looking for the demo element. So it's basically going to grab this paragraph element. So this statement right here just says find the paragraph element on this page. Then we want to change its inner HTML, meaning whatever's inside the open tag and close tag. So whatever would be here displayed in the paragraph element. We want to set it equal to the date. That's how that statement works. That's essentially that statement all broken down. Now, again, there are obviously like there are tons of things you can do with JavaScript. And if you want to learn more JavaScript, take my web development classes. In Web Dev 2, we get into JavaScript a little bit. HTML5 application development is essentially using JavaScript to build applications in web browsers. And so that's a more advanced JavaScript course, but there's so much here. We're going to focus on strictly using that this document.getElementById on click method. That's how we're going to build our project today. So I have a new project here. I've already deleted the files I didn't need, and I brought in pictures I'm going to need for this project. I'm going to get rid of the link to the CSS sheet because we don't need it. And I'm going to get rid of these as well. Now, you might be thinking, why did we get rid of the link to the JavaScript file, and why did we get rid of the JavaScript file? Well, because we're not going to be writing advanced JavaScript in an external file. We're just going to put it right here in the project. Okay, so once I show you how easy this project is, you are going to be kind of blown away. This is a very simple project. I'm making mine way bigger than I'm even asking for from you. All I want is at least 2 buttons that when you click them, they change the picture on the web page. And actually, I shouldn't have closed out W3 Schools because there is an example of this exact project that I want you to see. Where is it? Introduction, maybe? Right here. So if you look at this, you can click to turn on the light, click to turn off the light. All this project does is it has 2 buttons with an image in the middle, and that image is replaced. So we're just changing the image src. So the source attribute, we're just replacing that with a different image, right? So they have a picture for bulb on, and then they have a picture for bulb off. So all they do is whenever they turn on the light, it just changes to that image. When they turn off the light, it changes to the other image. That's it. So this is basically what I'm asking you to build for this project. Mine is going to look a bit different though. First, I'm going to wrap everything inside of a div. A div is basically a container that can hold like objects and kind of organize them on the page a bit better. And inside my div, I'm going to have a series of buttons, right? So this button element is going to just create a new button on my page. And the button is going to use an onClick attribute, which is a JavaScript attribute, document.get element by ID. Now it's really important that you capitalize these all properly, right? Get is lowercase, element starts with a capital E, by starts with a capital B, and ID starts with a capital I, and D is not capitalized, okay? It's really important that you get the capitalization perfect. And we're going to call this element. We're going to say the ID that we're grabbing is called element. And what we want to change about the ID, or what we want to change about the element that we have assigned, is we want to change its SRC. And we'll say, oh, hello, SRC equals, we'll say fire.png. Okay. And inside the button, we'll put the word fire. Okay. Now, if I were to run this, try to predict what's going to happen when I hit run. While I take a sip of coffee. If you said we're just going to show a button that says fire and when you click it, nothing happens, you would be correct. Now, the reason for that is because, notice down here, it says basically we can't find the thing you're telling us to find. So let's go ahead and find that. Let's create an element that will allow this to be found. I'm going to go ahead and create another div below this div. And inside this div, I'm going to put an image element. I'm going to say ID equals element, because that's the ID that we're looking for. And we'll say SRC equals, and by default, we'll just set it to fire from the beginning. And yeah, let's go ahead and run that. Let's see what that looks like. So we'll run. Now we have a fire element, but again, if I click the button, nothing happens. In order to see this actually making a change, we would need to have another button. So let's go ahead and copy this. And let's paste it. And instead of fire.jpg, let's do earth.jpg. And we'll change this to earth. Okay. So now when we run it, we can see that we have two buttons, fire and earth. When we click earth, it'll pull up the earth logo. If we click fire, it'll pull up the fire logo. Right? All my images are right here in the project. Makes it super easy. Okay? So that is JavaScript at work in your website. And then you guessed it, it's really just easy to add as many of these as we want. And we'll just change the file. Oh no, we already did earth. Let's do water. Let's do wind. Let's do light. The force of light. And let's do darkness. Okay. All right. Now let's run it and see what pictures we have. We have fire, earth, water, wind, light, darkness. And we can swap between any of them however we want, right? Now, if you're wondering, hey, where'd you get these cool logos? I just found them online. I found a set of Elemental logos that look pretty cool. So I just grabbed them online. Now, what's missing from this page? Obviously, we could do some CSS. We could turn this into a game if we wanted to. There's all kinds of things we can do with this concept, but I just want you using this document.getElementById to change the picture on the page. That's the only step that I need you to understand, because next week when we work on our final project, we are going to be using this same document.get element by ID to change not the image, but whether or not the image is displayed on the page. And you'll see what I mean when we get there next week. But if you can get this up and running, then you will have everything you need in order to finish the final project in this class. All right, let me know if you have any questions or need any help, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.